The main result of Aunt Emily's marriage to Davy Warbeck, apart from an enormous change for the better in her clothes, was that I now spent all my holidays parked at Alconley, while he carried her off abroad.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Do be kind to your Aunt Sadie. She's got such a lot on. Louisa's coming out and everything.
I do hope Uncle Matthew won't get cross.
No, I sometimes wonder whether it's good for Fanny to be quite so much in Matthew's house. No.
Nonsense, darling. Only a silly crybaby would be upset by that terrible old cardboard ogre. And Fanny is not a crybaby. Hi, darling.
Aunt Emily probably felt that if she had to choose between her husband's wishes and my nervous system, her husband's wishes should win the day.
I hope I don't have to wait until I'm 40. Scoring time, darling. Me first.
Well, your scores so far are even better than last holidays. And mine are worse. Wrists, ankles, neck and bust. You've beaten me hollow on all of them. Now then. 18 inches from knee to ankle. I read somewhere that Venus measured 18 inches from knee to ankle.
How much did she measure from the knee going the other way?
The book didn't say.
I expect the book thought it rude to tell one that about a goddess.
Well, Venus wouldn't have minded. She was rather a rude goddess.
Goddess of love.
Ooh, there's some very odd stories. Very funny, too.
But love isn't meant to be funny. It's meant to lead to romance and marriage, and to last forever and ever, and to go on to the grave and ever so far beyond. I do admit.
Well, yes, I do admit, Linda. But all the same, there are several different sides to love. And some of them are funny. Or rude.
You mean it. I can see that it might seem a teeny bit rude at first. I mean, taking one's things off. I wonder, can it be funny too? If you're in love, Fanny. Not just lecherous like Boyd Dugdale the lecturer, but really and truly in love. Because if you're in love, it is meant to be so marvellous and sort of sacred that it can't be funny.
Perhaps it doesn't seem funny to one, but it might to other people. I mean, just think what Bob finally found out that Oscar Wilde got up to.
That wasn't love, Fanny. Strictly not romantic.
Bob said it was to Oscar Wilde. Or at any rate, it was his way of doing it.
Oh, how confusing it all is. Oh, bother. I thought this was going to come out. When it does come out, perfectly, Fanny, if I haven't cheated, then I shall fall in love. Only I've got to wait for ages and ages anyway until we come out, let alone the patients.
Well, perhaps it'll happen before then. Perhaps it'll happen at Louisa's coming out ball.
Now, I want you all to listen to my list. Pay attention, Louisa. It's your ball.
Yes.
And you too, Matthew, it's your daughter. Now, it goes without saying that all our neighbours will be invited.
Come one, come all.
The difficult question is which of them should be asked to bring a house party.
It beats me why people can't stay in their own homes. I always do. Perfectly good food here, perfectly clean sheets.
So
Why can't
please,
everyone...
Matthew, after long thought, I've decided that the following should be asked to bring house parties. Now, in alphabetical order.
Why all this fuss? I've never known you carry on like this before.
Please, Matthew, in alphabetical order. Brigadier General and Mrs. Bateson, Major and Mrs. Jackson, Sir Thomas and Lady Lulworth, Lord Merlin...
Now, that is going too far. Merlin, real sewer. Fellow who prints up his dogs in diamonds, builds fancy gazebos like transparent knocking shops all over his park.
A theatre, Matthew, is all Lord Merlin has built.
All right, and what does he do with it? Fills it with huge orchestras, playing beastly, squealing, modern music, not splendid tunes like Thora, and then spends millions of pounds on filthy foreign pictures, not like these.
No, not like these. Wattos, I'm told. Lord Merlin is a man of elegance, Matthew, and if he's asked to bring a house party, it will be decorative and distinguished. Everyone else who comes will be utterly and unrelievedly dowdy, and I long, just for once, I do long, to look upon young women with properly dressed hair, London complexions and Paris clothes.
If you asked that hog Merlin to bring his friends, I wouldn't put it past him to bring some foreigners. I hear he sometimes has frogs and even wops to stay with him. I will not have my house filled up with wops.
Dear Lord Merlin, we're having a little dance for Louisa on the 13th of next month, and I shall be so pleased if you bring over a party from Merlinford.
You're not going to send that.
No, Matthew, I'm not going to send it, as I knew what your reaction would be.
Ha!
I have already sent it. This is only a copy.
Linda's and my dresses, white taffeta with floating panels and embroidered bead belts, were being made by Mrs. Josh, the wife of the head groom.
There, Miss Linda, you'll do. Now, Miss Frances, you won't be quite as easy to turn out presentable.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Josh. Thank you for being so clever. Oh, isn't it lovely to be lovely me?
Now, don't go getting overexcited, Duck.
Oh, Louisa.
Well, now, you can tell that wasn't run up in somebody's back parlour. You'll be the belle of your own ball, Miss Louisa, love.
I came especially to show you, Mrs. Josh, and to say that although this is so lovely, well, it's not quite the same as the dresses you used to make for me. Because, well, just because. Oh, see how lovely Fanny and Linda look in theirs.
Time to take them off until the ball. Yours too, Louisa. They will have to look out something else nice for you to wear on Friday.
Friday?
Yes, I've had such a pleasant letter from Lord Merlin. You know his reputation for little jokes and tricks. When I opened it, I half expected a jack-in-the-box to leap out and hit me on the nose. But it's really quite normal.
Except there's a picture of Merlinford at the top, and his telegraphic address is Neighbour Tees.
Yes, but don't tell Far. He doesn't like that kind of thing.
He says he's going to bring a party of 12, and he'll present their names to you presently.
It's all very correct, I must say.
And he's asked you and me and Far to luncheon with him on Friday.
Yes. Well, of course, your father won't go, but I don't see why you and I shouldn't have a little outing.
Oh, it is unfair. Why can't Fanny and I come?
For the same reason as your dresses are still being made by me.
Oh, I do long and long and long to be grown up.
Just you wait.
Lord Merlin was a famous collector. So avid that a well-known antique dealer from St. James's had found it worth his while to open a branch in the tiny town of Merlinford, simply to tempt his lordship with choice objects during his morning walk, and was soon followed there by Bond Street jeweller.
It's so warm, like everywhere else in the house.
Even the lamp was warm as toast.
They do say too much warmth is unhealthy. I wonder where Lord Merlin's got them.
Oh, what heavenly smells.
Just like the young man I sat next to at luncheon.
Oh, they look so
Merlin calls them Apollo and Hyacinth.
Hyacinth?
Yes.
But they both male.
Hyacinth was a boy's name, Lady Alconley.
Oh, how unusual.
Apollo thought so, too.
pretty birdies. Pretty birdies.
Have you seen outside? Merlin dyes the pigeons all the colours of the rainbow. They're dried in the linen cupboard.
But isn't that frightfully cruel?
Oh, no. They love to look at each other and they tumble about in the sky just like confetti.
We ought to think about going home, Duck. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, have you seen Lord Merlin anywhere?
It's just coming. He's got a lovely new surprise for us all.
Oh, Lord Merlin, Louisa and I really...
3:21, the precise moment of my birth. It's all done by electricity, Lady Alconley. I've had the broadcasting machine installed in the folly, and a gold figure of the Angel Gabriel mounted on the roof.
The Angel Gabriel?
Yes, playing that acclamation on his trumpet. Every day it's going to happen precisely at 3:21, the moment of my gilded and purple birth.
Oh, come, come, Lord Merlin. We bring nothing with us into this world, you know.
No, but for some of us, plenty is waiting.
And all this happened at 3:21. You say, high time Louisa and I went there.
Oh.
Yes, Mum.
Louisa.
Oh, beautiful buttons. Do tell me where you all hunt.
Dear me, we don't hunt.
Then why do you wear pink coats?
Because we think they're so pretty.
Nobody want to come to your dance?
All the women in England. No men.
Why no men?
Too busy, too sought after, too pampered.
It's a pity Montor isn't here. He'd come along and help you out. Can't expect him to come from India, though.
He hasn't any boys, only Polly.
Jessie and I could dress up as boys.
You won't be there.
So far.
Too young.
'Tis unfair.
If you ask me, the fewer that come, the better. That sewer Merlin and his mob of greenery-yallery boys. Ain't that enough? What's the matter? Do you really mean to say you want more men?
Yes, Matthew, there must be someone for at least some of the girls to dance with.
And that's what's been upsetting you?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was the prospect of some young brute making up to Louisa. Upsets me, I can tell you. Well, if you're going to make yourself ill about not having enough men, then more men you shall have.
But where shall you find them?
London, you know, I can't stand the place. But even less can I stand having you looking so down.
Oh, thank you, Matthew.
Time to take steps. I'll be off to London this very day. Drum up some likely fellas.
All right, Matthew. We undertake to be on parade for dinner and the beginning of the ball, and to walk through 5 dances each.
Except me. You can hardly expect me to stand up for 5 dances, but I will positively sit there in the ballroom.
5 dances each, then bridge. We want a proper table set up in a room by itself.
And we want our own drinks. None of that champagne stuff for the ball. Whiskey.
Brandy.
And liqueurs.
And 6 bottles of my blood as well, I dare say. Anything else?
Yes. We'll have a shoot the next day.
And a car to take me into the Bodleian and back, yes?
That means we'll have to stay another night, of course. So, we'll have some of that Taylor's 86 of yours after dinner.
This, then, was a ball. This was life, what we had been waiting for all these years. Here we were, and here it was, a ball. The men so old and ugly, the women so frowsty, their clothes so messy and their faces so red, the oil stove so smelly and not in the least warm. Above all, the men.
Come on, Fort William. Time for bridge.
Oh, I did rather think another dance.
What nonsense. You dance much longer at your age, something will snap.
Oh.
Bridge.
That's terribly sorry.
I was going to ask you for the next one, Fanny. God knows it's your turn. But as Louisa's been so cruelly deserted by Fort William, and as it is her ball, you do see, don't you? Excuse me.
They balance like King Stork on one leg, and with the other they come down on one's toe like King Long. Not Davy. Even Davy. Perhaps it's because we never learnt. It's a miracle! How too heavenly for words. Oh, Fanny, do admit.
What's going on?
He's up to something.
One of his famous jokes.
Fun. It's frightfully suspicious.
Here he comes.
Thank you, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Be like them. I must live the way they do forever and ever.
I don't think it would quite suit me.
I can introduce you both if you like. I know Merlin and some of the rest.
No, we're too dowdy tonight in Mrs. Josh's awful dresses.
What are they then?
Yes, soon. There! Brutal thing. You unset it, Fanny. You're more handy. I'll keep watch.
Gotcha, both! Miss Linder, Miss Francis, how can I keep a proper head of game with you two up to your tricks? You old enough to know better. I'll be reporting you to his lordship.
By all the rules in the book, you ought to be sent to bed for a week on bread and water. But you're too old for that. Just. In any case, something rather special has happened, in honor of which your mother has asked me to drop all charges. Your sister Louisa, we just had a wire from Fort William's mother's place in Sussex. They're engaged.
Engaged? Louisa and old Lady Fort William?
Don't you be pert with me, miss. Louisa's going to marry John Fort William.
Might just as well be his mother. They're both well over 155, do admit.
Lord Fort William is 39 years old. He'll be a damn sight better for your sister than some beastly young wart who's still wetting his breeches. Anyway, you'll be grateful she's got engaged when she has. If she hadn't, I'd a mind to whip the pair of you.
If we're too old for bread and water, then we're too old for whipping.
I wouldn't bet your Sunday best on that, miss. Now, off with you. Miss Fanny, I want a word with you. Craven tells me you didn't so much as squeak when you fell foul of that trap. Good. Just like your mother.
I'm not sure I want to be like my mother.
Well, you don't want to romp about with the men, as she does, that's for sure. But remember, there are a lot of good things about the Bolter. She sits on a horse like a... What are the names of those damn women?
Like an Amazon.
Amazons, yes, that's it. And she'd fight like one, too, if it came to it. I can just see her swatting one of those Greek chappies with her sword. She didn't get too inquisitive about what sort of form the fellow had off the field.
Poor old thing. I suppose she likes him. But I must say, if John Fort William was one's dog, one would have to have him put down.
You're envious. You'd go off with him yourself like a bullet.
If he'd asked you.
Only he hasn't. He's asked Louisa. We must get her to tell us all about it as soon as she comes home.
You can't do it until you're actually married.
I fail to see why not.
Well, anyway, Louisa won't. I don't imagine they'll do it even then. He's far too decrepit. His hair looks as if it's slipping off like an eiderdown in the night. How would you feel if you were doing it and then your husband's hair fell off all over the bed? At this moment, I think Linda would gladly have changed places with Louisa, even at the cost, the heavy cost, of being happy forever after with John Fort William.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this congregation to join together this man...
Louisa was to have two houses,
in holy matrimony.
one in London, Connaught Square, and one in Scotland.
First, it was ordained for the procreation of children.
Her dress allowance would be £300 a year.
Secondly, it was ordained for a remedy against sin and to
She would
avoid
possess a diamond tiara, a pearl necklace.
that such persons as have not the gift of continency might marry.
A motor car of her own, probably too. Squadrons of servants and a fine fur cape.
You should have gone before we left. You know, Lucille always says.
Wilt thou have this man to thy wedded husband, to live together after God's ordinance in the holy estate of matrimony?
I will.
In fact, her lot was a very enviable one. Granted that she could bear John Fort William.
As man's among for whom it seems, when he fell in the chase, so my soul, O God, for thee, and my refreshing grace. For me, my God, the living God, my thirsty soul of mine. Oh,
Shame. In the middle of Louisa's favourite hymn. Do have a little bit of pity. Tell me where I can go. Over there, behind the box tomb. I only hope Great Uncle Matthew doesn't get up out of it and haunt you.
Is she all right? Where is she?
Going to the bathroom on Great Uncle Matthew.
Pull yourself together, Davy. Deep breathing. Begin. In, out. In, out. That's better.
I've twisted my tonsil singing.
In and out. In and out. You may return to the service, ladies. Captain Warbeck is out of danger, and Mrs. Warbeck and I can deal with him.
Really too shaming, Jessie. Never should we tell people?
You will find that no one will even mention it if you don't. In and out, Davy. In and out.
I'm not sure I haven't ruptured my tonsil now, all that heavy breathing you made me do.
Nonsense. It's the only cure. In and out.
Merlin, so hard.
Lord Merlin.
Please, trust me, Mrs. Warbeck. In and out.
No sympathy.
In and out.
No pity.
Then Louisa went away, and the wedding guests departed from Alconley, and I was taken off to Aunt Emily's house and back to school. This, of course, was the time when Linda should have been made to work, with no time for silly dreaming. Aunt Sadie made suggestion after suggestion. That Linda should learn to cook, should occupy herself in the garden, should be prepared for confirmation. But Linda furiously refused. Nor would she do jobs in the village, nor would she help her mother run the house.
So that's why I sent for you. The trouble with you, missy, is that you're just thoroughly bloody-minded. Yes? Alkiner speaking. Oh, would you, indeed? And when? That hog Merlin wants to speak to your mother. Something about luncheon next week. Actually, to be given some froggy filth. Like slugs. You better go and get her.
School because Matthew doesn't believe in lessons.
What? No lessons at all?
No.
My dear Linda, what do you do all day?
Well, she does have the occasional conversations with Lucille. That's the French governors. We have for Victoria and Jassy and little Matt.
Occasional conversations with Lucille.
But Lucille's French tends to be, well, rather too idiomatic, if you follow me.
I follow you.
So we have to be rather careful. Lucille's very funny. Sadie gets in a fuss because she uses words like pat and mad. But at least she's not bloody boring like everyone else.
Oh, now, Duck.
Now, you listen to me, Miss Linda. Oh, by your leave, Lady Alcombe. If you are bored, it is not because other people are boring you, but because you are boring yourself. Which is to say, you are not making use of the plentiful wits and intelligence with which God has endowed you. So, we must whip up the horses of your soul and give you a thorough mental scouring.
Please don't mix your metaphors, Lord Merlin.
That's better. Proper criticism, not mere rudeness. Now then, we shall draw up a list of books for you to read. And we shall take you, your mother, and I to see some well-chosen pictures. Beginning with the ones in this house.
Linda was quite clever enough to perceive that the world that she wanted to be in, the witty, sparkling world of Lord Merlin and his friends, was interested in the arts and things of the mind, and that she would only be able to shine in it if she became in some way educated.
And another thing. Please remember, the arts are not merely for pleasure. They provide consolation and philosophy. Sometimes even explanation as well, when things go wrong.
When what goes wrong?
When love grows cold, and there's a betrayal of heart and trust. You'll see, pretty Linda. Oh, yes. You, of all people, will see.
All dressed up, I see. Off on another of your art binges.
We're going to the Ashmolean with Lord Merlin.
Ah, that's you again. Well, I must admit, since he started you on this culture campaign, some of us have been much more agreeable to live with.
We're planning a little expedition to Stratford Far to see a play. We thought you might like to come.
Me? Haven't been in the theatre for 20 years. The old Empire was more my mark.
Nevertheless, Matthew, there's a play we think you might enjoy.
Wilt thou be gone? It is not yet near day. It was the nightingale and not the lark that pierced the fearful hollow of thine ear. Nightly she sings on yon pomegranate tree. Believe me, love,
was the nightingale.
It was the lark, the herald of the morn, no nightingale. Look, love, what envious streaks do lace the severing clouds in yonder east.
It's all the fault of that damn fool of a padre mucking up his errand like that. That fellow, what's his name? Romeo. Ought to have known that a damn papist would mess the whole thing up. Silly old fool of a nurse, too. I bet she was an R.C. Dismal old bitch. And as for that horrible sewer Capulet, he was a real wop.
Yes, Matthew, darling. Emily writes that Fanny's last term at school ends on the 15th of next month. We shall have to think very carefully about the arrangements for her season in London with Linda.
At last grown up. At last. Oh, isn't it lovely to be lovely grown-up me?
Not so fast, miss. You needn't think you're grown up because you've been allowed to put your hair up and take a dance or two in London. You're grown up when you're 21, or when you're married, or when you can pay your own bills, so don't start getting any ideas.
I've been thinking about our ball for Fanny and Linda.
Oh, none of those beastly balls?
Down here again, I think, not in London.
Oh, well, if we must. So long as you don't start upsetting yourself as you did over the last
No,
one.
you needn't worry about that. I feel quite an old hand at it now. Besides, Louisa will be a great help in providing a lot of young men.
Those dreadfully dull Scottish boys she knows.
Most of the girls who come will be dreadfully dull as well.
You make the whole thing sound too impossibly dreary before it's even started.
Gracious, you've improved since last time.
Linda and I have been taking dancing lessons.
Well, sit down, friend. I must give Linda a turn.
I think Linda's booked by one of Louisa's Scottish boys.
Lord Merlin!
Oh, my dear lady.
Who is that tall blonde man?
Charlie Kruzig, merchant banker's son. Merlin asked him to make up the numbers when someone else dropped out.
How do you know?
He telephoned me to ask if I thought Kruzig would do, and I said yes, but only just.
He looks splendid to me. Will you introduce me to him?
I don't know. Only who he is.
Oh, no, I'm interested.
How do you do? Would you like a dance?
Yes, of course.
What shall you wish for?
Ah, Matthew, I think it's enough indeed. One of the oil stones is spoken.
Who's that young sewer with Linda?
Kruzig, merchant banker, you know, his son.
Kruzig? Good God! I never expected to harbour a full-blooded Hun in the house. Who on earth asked him?
Merlin brought him.
I knew that bloody Merlin would start bringing foreigners here sooner or later. I didn't think that even he would land one with a German. And a tradesman of that.
Banker, Matthew.
Well, exactly so. Tradesman.
Don't you think it's about time someone took champagne to the band?
You can if you want. I'm going down to the boiler room to talk to Tim, the boilerman.
In the middle of the ball?
Ballroom's full of Huns and rubbish. At least Tim's British, talks good sense about coke.
Linda Krosigk thing won't do at all.
You shouldn't have brought him.
I had to get someone. You said he'd do.
Only just, I said. Best thing you can do now is to get him out of here before Matt Alkenley cuts off his head with that entrenching tool.
Very well.
See you at the meet tomorrow.
There it is! Over there! There.
It was the one romantic gesture of Tony Krosig's life.
He said he'd ring me when he got back to Oxford. Suppose it rings and I'm not there.
Well, suppose it rings and you are there. What can you say in front of Uncle Matt?
I'll pretend it's Lavender Davis. You know how dreary she is. That'll make it all sound respectable and put Far off his guard. Alkenley, Linda Radlett speaking. Just a moment, please. It's Lavender Davis. How exciting. I've been waiting to hear from her for days.
Oh, I didn't know you cared that much. Dismal girl. Face like a carp. I can't stand being in the same room with her when she's talking, even on that thing.
Sorry, Lavender. Tony, I mean. I just had to sneeze. But I should never be allowed to. He wants me to go to lunch in Oxford next Thursday. Lunch? Well, that's what he called it. But, Tony, I shouldn't be able to come without Mummy or... He says that's all rot, and several girls are coming from London, and if I must bring someone, I can bring you if I like.
I don't think I count.
Oh, I know, but I can't explain to him about Sadie and Far being so medieval. Oh, Fanny, darling, if I said yes, Far would kill us. Whatever shall I do?
Say yes, or you'll die of it anyway.
All right. Yes.
Not just yet.
Mummy. Lavender Davis rang, and she's asked Fanny and me to luncheon there next Thursday.
Well, Duck, I'm afraid you can't have my car.
Oh, Mummy, please do let me go. I do so want to go.
Dismal girl, that Lavender.
Far, you don't understand. There's a man coming who knows all about baby badgers. You know how long I've wanted a baby badger.
Now, when you go out to London for the season, you won't want to be bothered about baby badgers.
But we're not going to London just yet, and we shan't be there forever.
Thank
so
God.
please, Mummy, darling.
Oh, well, we'll see. Perhaps I can borrow Fars Morris, or Josh can take me in the Daimler.
You are kind. Oh, you are kind. I do long for a baby badger. We must get hold of some powder.
And rouge.
We can blue our eyes out of Jassie's paint box.
And slip in colours.
I'll get the verbena soap out of Mummy's bathroom, and if we let it melt in the bath and soak in it for hours, we shall smell delicious.
You loathed Linda Davis. Oh, shut up, Jessie. You said she was a horrible counter-hon and that you'd like to bash in her silly face with Ron's mallet.
She never said that.
You drive, Fanny. Why have you got your London suits on for Lavender Davis? Oh, do go away, Jessie. Why are you starting already? You'll be hours too early.
We're going to see the badger before luncheon.
How red your face is, Linda. Oh, you do look funny. Be careful with the handle, Fanny. You might catch your eyelashes with it. If you don't shut up and go away, I swear I'll put on you back in the pond. Why don't you bring Lavender back here after luncheon for a nice, long, cosy chat? Not very hunch of them. Do you think they can possibly guess?
Never mind them.
Do you think we've allowed enough time?
We've allowed enough time for 2 coaches, Linda. And I've got the 6pence safely for the Clarendon car park.
It wasn't very enjoyable from our point of view. They all roared with laughter at private jokes and endlessly showed off. Still, we felt that this was life, and would have been quite happy just looking on, had it not been for our ghastly feelings of guilt.
What in all travellings is when you take a drink, everything comes.
Every time the door opened, we expected it to be Uncle Matthew cracking a whip.
I go hunting about 3 times a year, you know. And we had an absolutely marvellous day yesterday. We found in Calvert's and set off at a spanking pace across the Cricker. And then, by Jove, just short of Melsby's Acre, my horse went lame. Huh? But would you believe it, just then my man appeared with my second amount, so all we went again.
Even in such totally unpropitious surroundings, love had increased 3-fold in one short day.
So how was Lavender? Did you roar at your eyelids? Better go and wash before Pa sees you. Did you see the baby badger? Oh, Lizzie, are you horrible?
Not that fast, you two. Pa wants you both in the business room. As soon as you came back, he said. Sooner you than me by the look of them.
You realize if you were married women, your husbands could divorce you for this.
No, they couldn't, Fa. I know all about divorce because I've read all the stuff...
Don't interrupt your father.
Now we know you can't be trusted, we shall have to take certain steps. Annie, you can go straight home tomorrow. And I never want to see you here again. You understand? Emily will have control of you from now on. She will turn out the same way as your mother, as sure as eggs is eggs.
Are eggs.
As for you, miss, there's no question of a London season now. Too many chances for slipping off. You can stew in your own juice here.
Goodbye, darling Fanny. Oh, you are lucky not to be poor miserable me. Goodbye. Bye.
Heaven alone knows how they found out. Pure magic.
Quite simple, really. Somebody left a scarf in Crozig Drums and he rang Alconley to ask if it was either of you.
It's all in Sadie's letter.
What now? Uncle Matthew said there was no more question of a London season, and that Linda would have to be watched every minute of the day.
As I told you before, Fanny, Matt Alconley is like the Demon King in the pantomime. Leaps up out of the trapdoor, all horns, hot air, and cackle. John Fort William and I have quietly explained to him that what you two did by modern standards was perfectly normal.
Though it was very wrong of you to have told such shameless and silly lies.
Matt, of course, has just crawled back through his trapdoor.
The thin end of the wedge has been inserted.
Linda will get a London season, and everything will go ahead as planned.
Only you will both have to promise that you will never act in such an underhand way again. And that if there is anything you particularly want to do, you'll always ask your Aunt Sadie.
Only then, of course, it will always be no. Can you imagine what Sadie would say if we were asked to a nightclub? Oh, I do long and long and long to go to a nightclub.
We might just as well not be grown up at all.
Oh, those young men. How dull they are, Fanny, do admit.
I do admit. So like one another, you can't tell them apart.
Let alone remember their names. Oh, darling Tony. If only he wasn't still at Oxford. Time to go out to tea with Farr at the House of Lords.
No, today it's tea with Aunt Sadie at Gunter's. And so our season went on. But then, early one summer's morning after the ball was over and we were at last going home, as we climbed into a taxi with Aunt Sadie, who would never keep a chauffeur up at night, when the great hoses were already washing the streets,
Bye-bye. Tally ho. Right then, where shall we off now? Oh, I didn't really get the club.
Linda! It's that bloody Hun Kresick on the telephone. I'm telling him to get the hell out of it. I will not have you mixed up with Germans, do you understand?
well, I am mixed up, as it happens. I'm engaged to him.